Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about how to let go of your past and deal with your past when you stop drinking. If you have got to this point and you have an alcohol problem and you're stopping, I'm going to bet, like me, you have done and said some things that you regret, that you're ashamed of, that kind of haunt you. I had memories of things, just things I had done that was just, they weren't me. I mean, I did them, but they weren't me. I was stuff that was very out of character, stuff that I felt embarrassed and ashamed about. That those memories would come up when I stopped drinking, and we try and stuff them down, right? We try and push them away because they're unpleasant. Nobody wants to feel like that. Now, I want to tell you the answer to this is not drinking alcohol, okay? Drinking alcohol is not going to solve this. It's just going to continue to make things worse. When we get sober, we get the opportunity to make the past right, to clear up our side of the street. And this is the only thing we can do. There's no other way. In the 12 steps, this is called making amends. And I think this is a really helpful framework because all that is ancient spiritual wisdom. Whether you have an alcohol problem or not, all human beings mess up. All human beings make mistakes. All human beings make choices and say things that are out of alignment with their values. We do stuff that we regret, right? This is just part of the human condition. I just think it's kind of amplified when we have an alcohol problem, because we can certainly, when we're under the influence, is when we can do and say really stupid stuff. But also, I want to tell you, I was capable of doing that in between drinks as well, when I was dry. And the reason for that is when you have an alcohol problem, you leave yourself by degrees, right? It's almost, you don't notice it happening. You know, it's that little lie you told about why you missed work on Monday, or that kind of inappropriate joke you made, or the way you manipulated a situation to make sure there was enough alcohol, or etc., right? And these, one doing something like that once, telling a little lie or whatever, what's the big deal? But they compound, right? And one day you wake up over here as someone you no longer recognize. That's what happened to me, and it's probably what's happening to you if you're watching this. It's like, I am not a flaky person, a liar, someone who manipulates, who behaves badly, is thoughtless. But when I was in my drinking career, I was capable of all of those things because I was very disconnected from who I really was, which is why sobriety is the journey back to yourself. And part of that journey is to clear up our past. And initially, the motivation may be that we have to do this in order to feel better. So that's kind of selfish. I want to feel better, but it is the right thing to do. Now, I want to kind of lay some of this out because we may have caused real harm to people, right? We may have hurt people. We may have, caused them monetary harm or emotional harm. It's not appropriate on day 7 of sobriety to just wheel around and like throw out apologies and expect to be forgiven on the spot, right? We need to allow other people to have their process. This is really important. Other people are in their process too. You are in a process. You are in the process of getting sober and being a sober person, right? Processes change. So they have beginnings, they have middles, and they have completion, and then we start another process. So where I am, almost 25 years of sobriety, is a very different part of the process than where you are, if you are on day 7 or 30 days or a year, right? We're just in different stages of the process. Now, we're both in the same process. I'm just at a different stage to where you are. So you need to know that the people that you love and care about, the people around you, are also in their own process. And part of that process is in relation to you, right? And I want to tell you, my experience is that the people around us, they are often behind us, right? We may feel really committed and solid to our sobriety, but they're still here just waiting for the day that you show up drunk, right? They need time to see that this is really going to stick. So going and kind of making grand declarations and apologies very early on is not going to have lots of depth and weight for them because they've probably seen and heard it before. So you need to understand that. You need to also consider other people's feelings, what's going on with them, where they are in their process, whether they want to see you or not, and you need to act in their best interest. I strongly advise that you talk it through with someone. Having some kind of mentor, if you have a sponsor, a spiritual guide, a therapist, talking it through with someone is really, really important because we just can't see these situations clearly. Trust me, we cannot see them clearly. So that's my first bit of advice. Now, I'm going to tell you what kind of drives me a bit crazy. Doing grand gestures, right? People don't want grand gestures. They don't want a big present with tons of balloons and a groveling apology. What other people want is behavior change. They actually want, so I'll give an example. Maybe it's your partner, right? And your partner is like, you're still together, but your partner is really upset and in their own process, right? So you could go out and get like a really fancy present with bows and balloons and bring it back and say, I'm just so sorry, I'll never do it again. And they might appreciate the present, but I'm going to tell you what they want. What they want is that you empty the dishwasher every morning. And that's just what you do. And that you are taking the trash out, or you're picking the kids up and you're making the kids something to eat. Or what they want to see is consistent behavior change, not grand gestures. So we can state our intentions, so we can own our past, we can apologize, don't grovel, but we can own our behavior, we can apologize, and we can move forward in behavior change. What people want to see is consistency. That's what they want. So time takes time. What we're doing is we are cleaning off our side of the street. My side of the street had got littered with a lot of rubbish. So it's going to take some time to clear off our side of the street. Like I owed financial amends. I had to do some financial amends to people, and I went about doing that. I made apologies to people, and again, that was great. It kind of it can clear the air. It can really kind of take away those, sometimes when there's an elephant in the room. So it can clear the air, but what really matters is what we're doing day by day. That is how we clear off our side of the street. And as we go forward, this is why early sobriety is very different, right? This is stuff that's going to happen in the first year or two, right? It might take some time to do this, depending on how much wreckage we caused. We want to clear off our side of the street, and then we want to keep it clear. Right? Because when you get sober and you do all this work on yourself, or the work of emotional sobriety, the stuff that I teach and talk about, I hate to tell you this, but it doesn't mean you're going to become a perfect person. You're still going to make mistakes. You are still going to mess up. You're still going to say and do things you regret, because again, it's part of the human experience. So what we're just going to get used to, this is a muscle that we're going to develop, is we are going to become people who can become we can self-reflect, we can be accountable, and we can keep our side of the street clean. That is maturity. That is sober maturity. And that is how you're going to stay sober long term. Because I want to tell you, if you don't do this, our conscience, those feelings, those emotions, those intrusive thoughts, they come in, they feel really unpleasant, and we have to keep finding ways to push them down. To push them down, to push them down. It just doesn't feel good. So this is why this action is just so vital to long-term sobriety. And, if there's people who like you, they do not want to see you, they are not interested, that's it. All you need to do is remain willing, right? Maybe things change down the road. Maybe circumstances change. Maybe you bump into them and the energy is kind of more open, and you can just very simply own your mistake, apologize, and move on. If you're going to do this, keep it really simple. People do not need elaborate stories or setting the scene, and they don't need excuses. People do not want excuses for you. Oh, it was a really bad time in my life, and that is draining the truth from the apology or the amends. As simple and as brief as possible. And also that, I'm going to say, it just makes it a little less painful for yourself, and then move on. What this is an exercise in humility. And humility is just such an essential characteristic that we want to cultivate. All humility is it's not that we think less of ourselves, it's that we think of ourselves less. So it frees us from the self-obsession. That's why this process is so powerful. It's one of the things that helps us become free of the self-obsession, of the thinking about ourselves. What do other people think of me? Like, how's this going to, like, we are all self-obsessed, and we all need to work on being less self-obsessed. And this process will help you do that. Love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below.